Hello? Okay. Testing. One, 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 one. Two, 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 two. Okay, yeah, it's working.
Sorry. Hello, hello.
Uh, we will begin shortly. Uh, Everybody, please settle down. Thank you. सही आवाज? Okay. Just a little on the left.
Like,
Just move it, move it.
this? Okay.
Okay, thank you guys so much for making it out here, and I'm very happy and pleased to see such a big crowd for this. I was low-key thinking koi nahi aayega. But I think let's begin. I'll just say a few words before also, opening the floor up to my lovely fellow panelists. A culture must be incubated in a petri dish. How did our food culture develop? Speaking to Lydia earlier, I reassured her that we'd be nervous together while we're doing this. So, sorry, what was the topic again? Uh, the exploration of culinary inheritance. No, exploration of culinary inheritance and what belongs to us. What belongs to us? Are they the recipes and the ingredients of our ancestors? Which project, by the way, has been spearheaded by moms and grandmothers across cultures, so shout out to them. Is it the responsibility of nourishment and necessity in a sick world with forced famine and genocide? Now more than ever, there is a need to know what belongs to us. One thing I certainly know, that the here and now belongs to us. What is in season belongs to us. And the wisdom nature imparts, the tides that recede in the south of Pakistan, shining silver light onto fish, the oranges ripening on trees in the central parts, and the crisp autumn air hitting the apples in the northern parts, they belong to us. So I will just open the floor and now ask my fellow panelists what belongs to you.
Do you want us to introduce ourselves first, or?
I mean, if you want to introduce, yes, I would like it if you just said a few words.
Okay, sure.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Hi everybody, my name is Nahla. I have come from Jordan, so traveled a bit far to be here. And I also have Syrian and Bangladeshi heritage. I'm an artist, an ecologist, a curator, a chef as well. And when it comes to, yeah, like what belongs to me in terms of my culinary heritage is, yeah, piecing together, growing up in different cities and being a kid of like the 80s and 90s and thinking about globalization and then thinking about fast food and street food and grandmothers and watching my weight and then a genocide and a famine and all of these things placed together, and also trying to reclaim time and thinking that, you know, as an overworked person in the art world who also wants to nurture herself and actually cook meals, maybe what I'm trying to kind of reclaim in my practice is having time, whatever time I have belong to me, nurture, sensitivity, as well as, yeah, live up to these incredible ancestors who taught us how to cook and also honor our plants and crops and the people around us who cook, the people right now who are, you know, fighting, starving, trying to make do with what they have. And yeah, that's what belongs to me.
Lydia, if I might extend the same question to you.
Sure. So my name is Lydia Kekeli Amenyaglo, and my last name might give it away. So I'm actually Ghanaian German, and so I moved to Ghana 5 years ago because the question actually of what belongs to us is what kind of drove me there. So my father, he comes from a family of cocoa farmers. And I don't know how many of you know things about cocoa, but Ghana is the second biggest producer of cocoa, but we don't own the value. We basically just provide the rest of the world, especially the West, with this sweet little pot, and we don't get any of the value. It's a 300 billion industry, and farmers get approximately 6% of a chocolate bar. And so basically I went back to Ghana about 5 years ago because I said no more. I want to reclaim the value for Ghanaians and also reclaim the narrative, because the narrative is one that has been very much claimed by European countries. And for me, it was really important that my idea was basically, what if Ghana had its own take on cocoa? What would it look like? And that's the narrative that why I went to Ghana. And so just a little bit more about me. I went to Ghana, founded Plenty Africa, which is what I was just talking about, reclaiming cocoa for Ghanaians. But I also became more and more involved in a movement called the Ghana Food Movement. And we are basically all people like me. And we are farmers, we are agripreneurs, we are chefs, many chefs. We are all people that are wanting to make a better food system for Ghana, who believe a better food system is possible. And so I'm the creative director there, and I get my hands dirty with everything that is creative. Similar things that Nahla is also doing, that Asad is also doing, from painting to setting the table to washing the dishes. I do a lot of. That's the most exactly.
That's the true crucial part, you know.
Yeah. That's so much.
So I'm going to now ask you one at a time the most dreaded question a cook is asked. What's your signature dish? What's that one thing that you either love to cook or to eat?
That's a really good question. So the thing is that the dish that I like to eat the most is the one that I can't cook.
Of course.
And it's called tozafi, and it's coming from the north of Ghana, and it's a dish that takes quite a long time. It's made from fermented corn maize, and it's a very healthy dish because it comes with a green sauce made from indigenous leaves. So that's the dish that I love to eat the most, and my signature dish.
You don't have to answer that. I was just kidding.
Exactly, yeah.
You don't have to
Let's
answer.
leave it at
It's the most
tozafi.
dreaded question, because how can a cook have a signature dish? It always changes with the season. What's happening right now? What's growing on the trees? What's in the ground? It keeps evolving. You can never have a signature. I feel like it's a flawed question. It keeps changing with nature, because cooks are also maintaining some kind of natural information as time goes by. So it keeps changing, evolving. May I ask you now, what is your favorite dish to eat, or if you have a signature dish?
Like right now, what's on my mind constantly since I've been in Lahore are chapli kebabs. I just want them now, every day, every second.
Slap,
However, again, there are so many ways of answering something like this, because yes, the chapli kebab is this like instant current craving that's sort of attached to being very present in a place. But I would have to say probably the thing I've consumed the most in my life is coffee. I had like very liberal parents who thought it was cool to give their 7-year-old daughter coffee and get her hooked on it. So it's a big part of our culture anyway. It's a very coming of age thing to start coffee drinking. But yeah, that's been with me the longest.
I can't relate because I don't drink coffee. So yeah, yeah, please.
I wish,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Rasi. Um, you were speaking earlier in the conversation that I was hearing when you were explaining about techniques belonging to you and the people in your country. You spoke about fermentation. Can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yes, so basically, yeah, like I said earlier, so in Ghana doesn't have many indigenous crops because all the crops that a lot of Ghanaians actually think they are indigenous, like cassava, yam, plantain, coconuts, all of these things came during colonial times, right, to Ghana, and we call them indigenous crops. And while I'm not taking that away from us Ghanaians and calling them, you know, our own, I think what is our own is the way we food practices and what we do with it. So if you, for example, look at plantain and the way what we make from it, or even corn maize, for example, if you look at Mexico, Mexico would make tortillas or tacos from corn maize. Ghana never had that idea of, you know, doing like bread from it, but what we did was we did a lot of like fermentation with it, and we eat it a lot in like doughs, in balls called kinke or banku, and these are practices that I feel that really belong to us, or not even to Ghana, I would say, because Ghana in itself is a colonial construct, right? But it's something that belongs to West Africans or Ewe people or Ga people. So I feel food practices is something that I feel we can be, yeah, really proud of. And now just touching upon like an example. So with Ghana Food Movement, we actually have a kitchen. And what we do is we have chefs that we also, you know, train. And we recently had somebody come from outside who was basically also teaching us how to use corn maize differently, because they said, so it was basically a professional chef, and he said, well, now that you don't need to ferment anymore because you don't need to keep it for a long time anymore, you can just use it in different ways. But that is basically also, you know, erasing the way we approach corn maize or the way we approach fish. So I feel like fermentation is a practice that I would not like to see go away from our food culture.
It's also a lot of, you see, fermentation initially started as a necessity because you needed to preserve the food. And as time went by, the flavor compounds that developed through the process of fermentation became integral to our cuisines. I'm sure there is a process in your way of cooking, or just generally your history, or that there are tastes which have been, I would say, just nailed because of fermentation. Is there anything, and is there something that you would like to give insight regarding? Like we have achar in our culture, we have fermented drinks as well. Yogurt, we're a big yogurt eating culture. So not big on cheese, but we're getting there. Lots of cheese consumers now. elaborating on your point when you said earlier about fast food, and we were discussing this the night we met as well, how fast food has really changed the landscape of how we eat as a people, because as people get busy in their work lives or whatever it is, we are getting further away from where our food is coming from, and it's sometimes just out of a bag, which brings us very far away from the ground reality where the food is coming from, and the farmers who are growing it, or the people who have to struggle, and the people who need to have foresight when if something needs to be harvested today, it has to be thought of sometimes a year in advance. And how are you planning your crop? So all this information and all this sensibility as a people is being lost because of course, urbanization, where I'm an urban person. I'm terribly urban, always, longing for, seeking some kind of village or whatever. Again, this is also, sometimes thinking, I don't know, there is something lacking in our food systems now, which makes us feel disconnected or dissonant with whatever is currently happening. So
Yeah, I mean, coming from a desert climate where, yes, we did really have to bank on what our winter season would look like, so it could inform how we would be eating for the rest of the time, and pickling and fermentation being a big part of the culture. What's sort of getting lost, and I find quite amusing, is what you were saying earlier, Lydia, which is that like neo-colonialist thing of like looking at lacto fermentation as like depth of flavor, or like sourdough bread making, when actually like sourdough bread making has been around since like forever, like Egyptian pharaoh times, like this is not some COVID trend. And so while I appreciate the sentiment of like, yeah, romanticizing or like turning these things into like hobbyist processes, you have parts of the world that are literally just forced into creating these calendars and these like containers for like storage, because this is the only way like we can adapt or like sustain ourselves for the rest of the year. But also to the point that you were making about like maize and like being taught to like explore it in different ways. I mean, I keep circling back to what's happening in Gaza. It's so close in terms of our borders in Jordan and our landscape, so deeply affected by like watching the famine unfold there and understanding that it's literally the same landscape, climate, foods. And so what a lot of chefs are doing right now in Jordan is actually trying to make recipes out of what aid trucks are providing in Gaza. So trying to find proteins from oats, mimicking certain tastes of meats with whatever is available, breaking down certain grains for that to happen. And yeah, I thought I feel like that's a kind of process that that also goes beyond fermentation and like what we've been discussing, but this idea of like also really being forced to reinvent the wheel with certain ingredients out of urgency.
absolutely, I feel cuisine evolves because of necessity. Every food that now we take for granted was created in a space where it was necessary. And you're absolutely right that earlier you were talking about sourdough and these things, how these are ancient practices, and it's the same now that again, I'm just going to come back to what belonging and culinary heritage and what it is. I'll speak from the perspective of a Pakistani cook. What is my culinary heritage? Where do I come from? And why am I always constantly viewing myself through the lens of somebody else or some other standard which is not set by myself, but from outside, like you said about Ghana and how the cacao production, you're not able to process it yourself. There is some uh, dastardly company coming in and they will process it and they will keep the proceeds to themselves. The farmers will get the short end of the thing. There's this shame. And you were mentioning earlier that there's a word in your language which is almost like a slur for a farmer.
Yeah.
And it made, sorry,
Fallahi. Yeah.
just can you talk a little more about that, please?
Yeah, it also goes back to this like new thing of like farm to table cultures, and how many of us are like, yeah, I grow my own food now, woo, you know, without realizing like these are age-old, lifelong, holistic practices. This is something like you need to be doing day and night. It's not just about the like the plot that you get to grow, but actually like really putting farming practices really on the top of that like hierarchy of like they are the institution. They are the models that we should really be honoring right now. Again, circling back to Gaza, like they are the people making food right now out of rubble. They are able to produce that. But yeah, like in Arabic we have a term that we use like in such a derogatory way, al-fallah, al-fallahi, meaning the farmer, is usually often used to describe someone who has like poor education, kind of like boisterous, you know, lack of academic qualifications, or the person who's garishly dressed. Like that's how you describe al-fallah, which is like such a betrayal to actually how important these people are right
We
now.
have something similar in our country also. We'd say कि पेंडू है या देहाती है देहात. So that's also has a negative connotation if I were to translate it for you. Pendu means somebody from Pind, which means somebody from the village. And it could be kind of considered as a slurish, but you know, it's just condescending, derogatory, could be used in a vile way if the language, you know, decides. But
I don't know if we have a term necessarily for it, but definitely the mindset of Ghanaians is the same way, and that's for me where it all starts, because we can as much, you know, also look outside and see to how capitalism and colonialism has formed this world. But in the end, when I look at my own people, my fellow Ghanaians, and how the government is not supporting farmers, how we are not supporting farmers, how the job of the farmer becomes more and more unattractive, even though they're really the backbone of the, yeah, it's quite loud.
Guys, can you please just keep it quiet? Yeah, I think that's good. Over to you.
Yes, where was I? I was talking about the farmers being the backbone of the economy, and to bring it also back to me, I see I saw my grandfather is no more, but they have really worked themselves to death, I would almost say, you know, providing for their whole family. So I really feel that's where we need to really start shifting our own mindsets and really start honoring what the people are doing, the work they are putting into to feed all of us. Every single one of us is eating from somebody that a farmer has produced. So there's actually no reason to have any derogatory views towards them. And I said that to the both of them beforehand. In this world, we somehow tend to see somebody in a suit or somebody that is in a CEO position or is working in an office in a way that they that they are valued higher. But for me, that's where we really need to start shifting, because in the end, the farmer's putting like way more work into it. And then at the same time, that's also where value really needs to shift, because in the end, to be honest, both of them deserve the same salary, if not even more.
I completely agree, and if there is no food to eat, then what's going to come of it? I just want to ask, put a question forth to both of you. Us as cooks in the respective fields in the countries that we are operating in, what do you think is our role, and how can we help identify what is important, what matters to us, and what belongs to us? We keep that information and that knowledge going, keeping the aspect of nourishment in mind. Just to nourish oneself, you must know how to eat, how to respect the ingredient. So as cooks, how can we ensure that our people are aware and we create a culture around this, and how it's just second to nature almost? Right now where there is a dissonance, we're a little far away. What do you guys think as cooks? What can we do? Anybody can, yeah.
I mean, I can only answer as a not cook, as a hobby cook, but rather as a creative director or as a storyteller. Because in the end, that's also what I mainly do. Is so our network, right, is consisting of all these beautiful voices, and everybody deserves to have their voices heard. And what I do is amplify them and put them together and see also where are the gaps, where are two parties, for example, also not communicating, where is a chef assuming that he, for example, has a constant supply, but a farmer is saying, hey, but that is actually out of season. So for me, it's really about bringing people together, and that's one of the main problems that we did have in Ghana, is people working in silos and people gatekeeping, so they weren't sharing information, not only about funding, but to all kinds of practices as well. So we really brought people together through different events. So yeah, bringing people together is one thing, and then really owning our own narrative. And one thing that is that we recently discovered in a really cool interview with people from all across Ghana is that also namings for our foods are slowly becoming gentrified as well, because people are using more and more English names, and that actually erases also the way, you know, we approach food. Because we, for example, we have this, let me see if I have it on my, I don't, well, but basically here the asanka and mortar.
Excuse me, can you give me a second?
Yes.
Guys, can you please keep it down? It's very disrespectful to our guests. खुद सोचें यार, पाकिस्तान को आप represent कर रहे हैं, ये बाहर से हमारे मेहमान आए हैं, थोड़ा सा शर्मिंदगी का मकाम है. प्लीज़ अपनी आवाज़ नीचे रखें. शुक्रिया.
Thank you. Yeah, so basically the English name for this, right, is pestle and mortar. And in Ghana, that's how we grind our herbs, but also if we grind together ginger or chili and all of these things, that's how we make our sauces. In Ghana, it's called asanka. And asanka also is something that says, you know, to infuse, and it has like the saying already is saying that the wood that it's made from is going into the food as well. But if you just call it mortar and pestle, it takes away that what it actually does. So I feel for me it's also important to continue with our language, continue telling the right narratives and reclaiming them for us. So that's what I feel is my personal job as a storyteller and creator.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you would like to add?
So as a chef, I've really made it a point to really sensitively address what's going on in the region, starting with really embracing our local wild native plants, studying their healing properties, completely understanding why they exist, why they came to us to provide us with sustenance and medicine. So when I'm disciplined enough, I will write that cookbook or almanac or way to use them, inshallah. I also am very committed to micro seasons, so looking at seasonality not just as like this Gregorian 4 season standard thing, but like our winter alone is divided into like 4 phases. I've been studying every fruit from like its time when it's still green and into its ripeness, and really trying to work with like every week that this thing changes and evolves, and moving away from like, yeah, thinking about how I get invited to cater or provide people with food, moving away from like large grazing tables and banquets and these feasts, and into something a lot more thoughtful where, yes, of course, the story is told. As an educator, I run an alternative culinary writing school called Rewilding the Kitchen, and it invites artists, chefs, and writers to get together to destabilize the kitchen a little bit, and really put ingredients in the forefront, like give them agency in a way, and like ask them to speak to us, listen to them, move away from nostalgia and romanticism, and actually address more critically the issues that we have today. In culinary school, it was very jarring to be in an institute where we were cooking recipes, but there were no subjects being taught about like cultural appropriation and storytelling and history. Like they're just chefs being brought into this world who follow recipes and literally don't care about the rest of that. So I try to like really incorporate that a lot, and actually teach people to cook in the most like non-intimidating way, but actually give us back the power in our like overworked, over-capitalized lives, that we can each have like a part to play in how we nourish ourselves and our family, or at the very least like celebrate the people who are doing that. So when I'm not doing any of those things, I also organize excursions and trips around Jordan where we visit these farm systems or visit these landscapes or groves or forests, to truly just be in the presence of these magnificent people who produce food so well. And finally, it's really seeing food as like a blessing and a kind of daily magic. Like actually, like it's alchemy, it's magic, it's stunning, it's problematic, it's deeply emotional, and kind of, yeah, living with all of those things.
I think when you said that food is alchemy and you were describing the different ripeness levels of a certain fruit, it truly is, because flavor compounds are developing over time. It's chemistry, biology in motion, and that for a cook is the ultimate paint to brush with on whatever plate they try to set up. So, and the kitchen, you're right, is a very chaotic place of creation. There is frustration, there is trauma, there is belonging, there is wellness, there is nourishment, but there is also, you know, mental illness. It's all there in our histories, in whatever we're used to either eating or. So I think it was a really nice, well-rounded conversation that we just had. Do you think we should open the floor to some questions? What do you guys suggest?
Sure.
Ijazat hai?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if anybody has a question, yes, please. आप माइक दे सकते हैं अगर. Thank you so much.
जी Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam ji.
And good afternoon. Thank you so much for this insightful and very lovely and wonderful, yummy session, I would say.
Thank you so much.
I'm really welcoming the speakers to Pakistan on behalf of my university, one of the institutions belonging to Punjab Group. So it's very interesting to know about Ghana and of course Jordanian dishes and Ghanaian dishes. So like in I have been to Middle Eastern countries like UAE and Doha and other countries. And of course in England we have seen the fusion of Turkey's delicacies and a fusion of both, of all the cultures. So why can't you bring that about from West Africa? And of course, Jordanian is right next to the Red Sea, and their food must be similar to the other Arab countries, but they can have a wide range of variety, I must say, and like as she said, that they have all the supplements and the medicinal therapeutic capacity in the food. So it should be, you know, spread all around, because in yonder days, in cave ages, there was some type of mechanism where the people, they used to eat instead of having medicines, because there were no medicines available. So the food was the only supplement where they could heal. So it is more of a comment than a question, but I am really grateful that I joined this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think,
we spoke about this in the car yesterday. So coming from these, okay, it might not apply as much, but I'd love to hear, like what your thoughts on this. But coming from these like legacy culinary cultures, you know, the Middle East, Pakistan, the Mughal Empire, Persian Empire, the oldest cookbooks in the world, were always kind of like very, we love the show and tell of like the history of our cuisines. And actually over time, they haven't evolved a huge amount since those days. I mean, some things sort of got like industrialized, or more like just easier to produce. Like the oldest recipe for hummus is like a 15 ingredient recipe, and not the one that we see today, which is like a 3 ingredient recipe. So it went from the royal kitchen and into the hands of like these everyday worlds. But sometimes I do think that the reason why we may have not necessarily evolved so much as contemporary chefs is because our cuisines are already elevated fusioned cuisines. It's like that work has already been done for us. It's like having, I don't know, like really successful parents, and you being a little bit intimidated to then like look at like what else you could possibly do with these cuisines. Having said that, yeah, like there are bits of that are kind of flowing, but I know like at least with Middle Eastern foods, because we're under constant threat of our foods being culturally appropriated by Zionism and Israelis, there's like just so much protection over like trying to claim these things for ours until we feel safe enough in this world to not have someone call it Israeli hummus. So we're still trying to protect our things a little bit more.
Yeah, and I really think that now ab itni sari, sorry, there's so many cultures, influences, ingredients that were never a part of our country. टमाटर एक ज़माने में नहीं था, वो आया और उसने हमारी जो so tomato, it changed the face of our cuisine. And like you said earlier also, some crops, I think in the day and age, this whole idea of indigenous or whatever, I don't know, it's now about human survival. Human beings will grow the crop, they'll learn from each other from different regions, they will bring the seeds, whatever, they'll test it out on their terrain, and they will grow it, because it's sheer survival. We need to survive, we need to eat to survive. That's why we will grow whatever grows. So I guess that in turn also influences our whatever regional food that is being created, and whatever the regional cuisine looks like in the future. Because what does the future look like, considering right now that Pakistan faces one of the most harshest realities in terms of climate change, and some of the work that I've been doing, and we see it firsthand, and it really gives you a perspective and shows you that our food systems are very fragile, and they are going to suffer immensely in the future because of the planet warming up, and things will change. Our cuisine will not look like what it looks like today. Later, we will have a different kind of survival skill that we will need. All these foods that we take for granted today may not exist, and I mean, not to. It is scientific fact now. Like it's going to happen, and we just have to maybe think about how to slow down the train that is coming towards us, just crashing, mitigate it to some extent. But it is the sad reality.
I mean, I have to say I'm almost jealous about the stance that Jordan and also Pakistani food has in the world, because we as Ghanaians or West Africans don't have that. As you have said, yeah, West African food is really having a hard time out there, and I think there's many factors to it. But I feel, for me, one is that the narrative, and again I'm coming back to narratives of beautiful West African food, is just not one that people like to hear so much. If you think of Africa, if somebody tells you the terms Africa and food, what do people think first? Undernourished children, poverty. They think of organizations that are donating starving children. So the beautiful narratives that we have, they are slowly up and coming. Like, we have now all these, actually we have a content creator right now. I think she has a 500,000 or something followers now, and she was getting an award from TikTok because she's actually bringing back all these cuisines right now, opening up her own restaurant. So it's coming, and so now people in the UK are now asking also, hey, do you want to come to the UK, open up a restaurant here? But it's very, very, very slow. And if you even look at what is it called, Michelin stars, there's no Michelin stars in Africa or for an African restaurant. There's one now in, I think, South Africa, but it's not black people.
Do we need that seal of approval? Is what I want to ask you.
We don't. It would be nice sometimes, but I've been thinking about that too. And
by the way, I say this with absolute insecurity as a Pakistani cook, that I'll never be good enough. It's natural, I guess.
It does give you some. Obviously, it brings some momentum, obviously, also to African or West African food if you have that seal of approval. And it would be nice to, be like, hey, where are we going out tonight? We're going to a 3-star Michelin restaurant, which is West African. It would be nice to see that, but it would be even nicer to have some sort of African name for, some sort of star.
Maybe I think this is the way forward. Let's reconvene after this and figure out a star system.
I love that.
Like
yes.
maybe a gold star or something.
Yeah.
So yes, Rasi. Can you please use the mic?
Is this working? Can you hear me?
Yes.
थोड़ा ऊंचा बोलो. मैं खड़ी हो जाऊँ, right? Hi everybody. Hello to Nahla and Lydia. It's really nice to have you guys here. I guess my question is just coming from a place of wanting to know you guys a little bit better. So I wanted to ask if you guys can speak to that moment in your life where you realize that food is so much more than, oh, just one of the needs that human beings have. Like, it became what it is to you now, it informs your practice now, that sense of like a developing idea of food that is deeply political and emotional, like you said. Is there like a core memory or a core moment that you have from your life that defined your relationship with food as it exists today?
There's sort of a constellation that came up recently. So it's not just one core memory, but it's one of those aha moments of something making sense. As a child, I loved eating laban and rice, so curd and rice. My sister and I were obsessed. We had a song for it, just like demanding it all the time, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we were picky eaters, but curd and rice was the thing. To the point where I was too young to notice this, but I suppose my family did. They started to notice the shift in my body as I was enjoying curd and rice so much that I was banned from eating it at night. So there was this like heartache around like you can only have it once a day, and eventually the anxiety that I have around like rice is like, yeah, now it's even more rigid than that. But actually, earlier in this year, I was commissioned by the Durjoy Bangladesh Foundation to create a menu that kind of looked at overlaps in like Bangladesh's history and my region as well, and read Bangladesh as a menu through the Bengal famine, partition, independence, like all these other things. One thing that I discovered about the Bengal famine, and this will apply to actually many famines, is that the kind of easiest things to supply people with are rice and potatoes if they're lucky. Irish potato famine has a similar notion. As a result of the overconsumption of rice and potatoes in the Bengali diet, meant that people were developing type 2 diabetes quite instantly, but not just that, ancestrally you become carriers of this gene as well, and your bodies sort of hold on or like hoard these carbohydrates, particularly like in the body for longer. So like an obesity problem today seen in the Bengal can be directly related to how our bodies are breaking down or storing rice, which is literally like the 7-year-old version of me was going through that experience. And the aha moment started really early, but like I just, again, it makes me so angry to just think of all of these like problematics. So yeah, 7-year-old and today's Nahla and everything in between is constantly having these aha moments with food. Yeah.
Can we get a sound bite of that song?
No.
Okay, maybe later. I think I extend the same question to you. So what's that one thing that you hold dear?
So I actually always say I am because of cocoa, and there's actually also a poem around cocoa, which I can't recite, I'm sorry, but I'll find it. Because basically my great-grandparents came from Togo, which is the neighboring country of Ghana, in search of a better life. They were quite poor. They came to Ghana and they were given basically one seedling for a cocoa tree, which is still on the farm, by the way, and I give thanks to that tree every time I'm there. And yeah, and they basically grew that cocoa farm. My grandparents were then there to take it over. My dad grew up on that cocoa farm, and he grew up on that cocoa farm, and basically they saved all of the money, and I still have that little booklet where they wrote down every single CD, which is our currency, they got, which then was saved to send my father to Germany, where he met my mother, and then there was me. So, and for the longest time, I actually have always looked down upon like my African identity, you know, my Ghanaian identity. And it was always like my father was going back to Ghana and what was he doing there? And he was buying some sort of land, some sort of cocoa land, and I was very disconnected from it. And it was in 2020, sorry, during the COVID year, when I was in Ghana for the first time with my dad together. And we were on that cocoa farm, we were standing on the top of it, and he was looking at me and he said, you know what, Lydia? One day all this will be yours. And in that moment, I understood the inheritance that I got from him, and that all these years he was working and growing that cocoa for me. So Cocoa Money sent him to Germany. He started continuing this legacy of cocoa for, you know, one day for me to have a future. And so I feel that cocoa has been there all my life, to some extent more prevalent, to some extent less, but I now really understand that cocoa is why I am. I owe my life to cocoa, that's always what I say, yeah.
Is there any specific dish or snack that you prepare with cocoa? Is there something that, you know, it's like maybe something to nibble on, maybe with some palm sugar or some other grains? Is there anything like that? That maybe, you know how usually if there's a harvest season, so whatever's there, they'll roast it together or put it together, make some kind of thing out of it, maybe use a sugar or a honey to, I don't know, I'm just thinking.
Well, the thing is that you're basically talking about the problem, which is Ghana not taking its own cocoa and making something from it. But what we recently did was a really cool sauce with cocoa and fish. And that was a really, really cool combination. We infused it with some local ingredients like huencha and prekese. It was delicious.
Is this a river fish or from the sea?
Another problem again was the imported, imported fish.
Interesting.
Yeah, Ghana has a huge import bill, which we are trying to reduce.
Tell us about it. Pakistan has a very large import bill.
What's your number?
I'll share that later. It's probably looking bad. But question, yes.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, what are your comments on culinary heritage as something very matrilineal? This is something I have been wanting to explore for a while, and I'd love to hear from you guys about it, because I've noticed that it is the one thing that is handed down from woman to woman to woman in most societies. So I want your comment on that, please. And I loved your talk, by the way.
Thank you. So I'm just going to repeat your question so that I understand it better. You said about culinary inheritance and heritage?
As handed down through a female line.
Female, yeah. So I'll just say a few words and then you just take over, okay? Okay? You also take over. Okay? So, our grandmothers and mothers, like I mentioned earlier when I opened this as well, they've always been the custodians, sometimes not by choice. So they make what they make and they're the custodians of that culture. Sometimes they don't want to make it, but they have to because it's the gender role or the norm which has been, just passed down. So what do you think in Ghana, how's the lineage of the culinary knowledge, ingredient knowledge, recipe knowledge? Is it being passed from sisters, mothers, daughters? How's it happening in Jordan? Is it being passed down, or is it being lost? Is it being, just a comment on that?
Yeah. I mean, Actually, I don't really believe in the linearity of like things being passed down through one vessel. Speaking as an artist as well, like the way things inspire you or present themselves to you are just so different. My mom never taught me how to cook. She didn't want me to ever be in a kitchen. It's a very big thing actually for women here and in this region that they don't enter their own kitchens. It's actually men or cooks who are cooking in those kitchens. So I don't really like. I try to step away from this like gender bias that that's the only way. Like with lots of love to grandmothers and mothers. I think there's so many other kinds of cooks or encounters with foods that are teaching us so much. Yeah. But yeah, all I can say is that they weren't the ones to teach me how to cook. They loved gatekeeping their recipes, honestly. They loved being celebrated for being the best. They didn't want that necessarily.
I think that's a good one. It's like this here as well. Sometimes people love to gatekeep recipes.
I mean, just think of like the restaurants that you have on the streets here in Lahore and who is cooking that food. They're men and
Yeah.
their food's incredible too.
Any food which is being produced in a commercial space is mostly cooked by a man.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, do you have anything to say about the?
The thing. Can you hear me? Hello, hello.
Just check here.
Check.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. The thing is that we are actually right now researching ourselves how recipes are passed on or knowledge is passed on. I think that our grandmothers, definitely, and our grandmothers and aunties are the ones with the knowledge, that's for sure. And also that knowledge, like, I think it's the same, possibly, you correct me if I'm wrong, but cooking is always the central part of each day, right? So the whole day revolves around cooking, and everybody in the family is also participating in that cooking process, the men as well as the women. And that's also why, yeah, sorry, I always get a bit distracted when it gets loud.
Guys.
I think they're coming down from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just it's okay. Yeah, you can continue. It's fine. You
Yeah.
can be a little louder. Just
Yes,
scream.
exactly.
Yeah.
So where was I? I was basically talking about, who's participating in the cooking process, which obviously then also defines who is passing down then also the recipes. But when I talk to the chefs in our movement, when they tell me, okay, how did you learn about cooking? It's always that in the end that they really had to sit down and ask exactly, because in the end, even our aunties and grandmothers are now taking shortcuts, right? So they also have to explain how did they used to do it and what actually goes into it, because the Maggi cube is something that's very, very prevalent, unfortunately, in Ghana, but the Maggi cube is actually just a shortcut made out of many, many other ingredients. So I feel it, how recipes are passed down is not so straightforward unless you ask. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Even in Pakistan now, the use of shortcuts and flavor enhancers is widely prevalent in most kitchens around the country. And the original way or the long way of making something might not be feasible, because then it requires you to employ a certain kind of staff. They need a certain kind of skill. And sometimes it's purely a decision, an economic decision. So, I mean, I can't find flavor enhancers are fine and all, but I like this idea that they're still telling the original way, but they're like, this is how we shortcut. That's also important. I feel that you need to learn all the rules so that you can break them. Yeah?
Yes, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, please.
Here. Thank you for being here. I have two questions. We spoke about culinary belonging, and we spoke about, Nahla said, institutions just teaching recipes instead of cultural heritage. How do we navigate through that and delve deeper into our culture, history and richness that it provides? And also as a female, how do we move forward into the professional kitchens? Because it's really difficult, opposite to the question that was asked. It's really difficult as a female to go into a kitchen and be like, please hire me. They say, hey, you're a female, please leave. How do we change that in the next 5 years?
Yeah, just yesterday when I was speaking to the cohorts in my workshop about the career I've had and how much I worked in restaurants, I actually chose to step away from working in restaurants as seeing that as the only vertical way I can ascend in this world, in the culinary world. Like, I think there's so many other ways and opportunities that has like opened up. For me to work in a kitchen day in, day out, literally making the same recipe, they will hate me for being an employee there, because I will not do that. Therefore, like, I've explored these other realms as well. But again, if you choose to go down that that hierarchical, that sort of vertical way of like becoming a chef and going through this what do they call it, like the brigadier system in the kitchen?
The brigade system.
The brigade
So,
system,
yeah, it's kind of
sorry.
like an army.
I think that
Band of brothers, usually.
personally is like feeding back into like colonization and a system that really needs to be dismantled if we're going to come together as communities and support each other and support like what you mentioned about Pakistan and climate change and all these other things that we're being affected by. I don't know, like, I feel like there needs to be other spaces where we should be present and like fighting.
Yeah. And building up on that also, I think the Ghana food movement, and that's why I love the work that I do, is setting actually such a beautiful example for how chefs can find other ways into the industry, or also how they can make an income as well. So we have, so most of our network actually consists of chefs. And we have chefs that are doing market tours because they're so knowledgeable about ingredients. We have chefs that are now being asked all over the world to speak about their experiences, about their food practices. We have chefs that are giving cooking classes to ambassadors, or becoming private chefs. What other examples do we have? Farm-to-table dinners. We have so many of them, obviously, as well. Then people who we support that are writing cookbooks right now, or who are doing research out in the field, working with communities. There's a lot of ways, I feel right now, how you can get your foot into the industry, and it doesn't have to be like, try to take off these glasses of the colonial system, because it sets a certain way somehow how you have to do it, and it doesn't have to be that way.
And your validation as a chef won't come from working in a Michelin star restaurant, honestly, like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I am to suggest, just take a sharp knife, go in a kitchen, just pierce it in the middle on a cutting board and say, I'm here to, and I mean business. Yeah, and just whatever, you'll get their respect, and then you just wear your whites and just show up. That's it. And I think on that note, we will conclude this lovely session. Thank you guys so much. And it was an absolute pleasure and honor to be sitting here between you guys. And thank you. And thank you everybody for sitting it out. Thank you so much. Thank you.